There are countless animals on Earth, and sometimes one's survival means another's loss. But when it comes to our pets, that's hard to accept. A python attacked a mother dog, and moments later, something unimaginable unfolded. This mother dog's only thought was to protect her puppies from the huge python before them. Keeping all 3 pups safe was almost impossible as they scattered in fear, and she leapt forward, blocking them as much as she could. She was focused entirely on her little ones when the python struck. It wrapped around her and began to squeeze. Inside the house, her human family was unaware of the danger. She couldn't bark, she could hardly breathe. Did she understand how close she was to losing her life? If she didn't survive, her family would feel an enormous loss. She was cherished as much as any other family member. When Sarah and Michael took charge of their family farm, they realized their old loyal dog wasn't enough to guard their vast new property in South Africa. That's when they decided to get another German Shepherd. They named the new pup Max. Max grew up strong and capable, shaped by the love and careful training Sarah and Michael provided. A deep bond quickly formed between Max and Michael, and soon the dog followed him everywhere. Though he was gentle, Max's protective nature often made Sarah a bit uneasy. Shortly after Max's arrival, their older dog passed away, leaving Sarah alone on the farm whenever Michael and Max went out. It was an uneasy feeling, especially since Sarah hadn't grown up on a farm. Nights in the African wilderness are like no other. Without streetlights near the house, the darkness felt thick and heavy. The occasional eerie cries of animals like jackals only added to the mysterious, almost haunting atmosphere. There's a certain magic to it, but being alone in that environment could be intimidating. Sometimes, Michael would stay out overnight on the farm, which always made Sarah uneasy. Sensing this, he came up with an idea. One evening, he returned and asked Sarah to grab a few things from the pickup truck. It was an odd request, but she didn't think twice and went outside. Sitting on the passenger seat was a small female German Shepherd, eagerly waiting for her. The puppy wriggled with excitement and licked Sarah's face as soon as she picked her up. Sarah was smitten, and so was Max. They named the new pup Bella. From that moment, Max and Bella became inseparable friends. But one day, something devastating happened. By the time Bella turned 3, a peaceful routine had developed. Max still went with Michael on outings, while Bella stayed by Sarah's side. One day, Michael came back from the field and casually asked where Max was. Sarah hadn't seen him all day, she had assumed Max had gone out with Michael. Instantly, panic struck. They both realized something was wrong. Bella had been acting strangely all day, barking and trying to bolt outside. Sarah had even closed her in the house to calm her down. Now, worry set in. They retraced their steps, trying to recall when they had last seen Max. To their shock, they realized it had been early in the morning when he first went out. Max usually headed out before Bella, who enjoyed sleeping in a bit. This time, she hadn't followed, and that simple choice might have been a costly mistake. They were stunned that they hadn't noticed Max was missing sooner. Moments later, things took an even darker turn. Sarah and Michael decided to put Bella on a leash, hoping she might lead them to Max. They wanted to be cautious, especially if there was danger nearby. Bella barked sharply and started pulling toward a cluster of bushes. They followed her along a dusty path just beyond the house, their hearts racing. Then, they saw something that filled them with dread. A massive python had slithered through, leaving a wide trail on the ground. But that wasn't what shocked them. Right beside the python's track were tufts of dog fur, black and brown clumps scattered across the ground, along with traces of blood. A terrible scene had unfolded here. Bella whimpered softly, as if she, too, understood the gravity of what they'd found. In that moment, Sarah and Michael knew they wouldn't be finding Max. With night settling in, there was nothing more they could do. Heartbroken, they slowly made their way back home together. Michael was furious. He couldn't sleep, and at dawn, he went out determined to search for the python. Nothing could be done for Max, but they couldn't risk having such a large python so close to their home. They also had a chicken coop in the yard, and they knew it would be in danger if the situation spiraled out of control again. Michael scoured the area, but his search came up empty. After the terrifying events of the previous day, they thought finding the python would be quick, but it seemed to have vanished. They spotted its trail, but it led into tall grass, and from there, the track simply disappeared, as if the python had been plucked from sight. Days went by, but it was nowhere to be found. For months, it stayed hidden, lingering somewhere but out of sight. When winter arrived, the python likely found a warm place to sleep through the cold. Back at home, Sarah and Michael struggled with sadness and a deep sense of guilt. Even Bella seemed affected. She was sleeping more than usual and had become less active, gaining a bit of weight. They assumed she was just adjusting to the quieter days, until Sarah noticed something incredible. Bella was pregnant. She was going to have Max's puppies. It was like a small part of him would live on through them. Now, they only had to make sure Bella stayed healthy and that her puppies would be safe. For months, they kept Bella close to the house, taking every precaution to ensure her and the puppies' safety. Losing her or any of the puppies would have been unbearable. They had it all planned out. Sarah and Michael would bring her to the vet a day or two before her due date so she could be cared for during the birth. But just like with babies, puppies have their own timing. One evening, when the couple returned from dinner, they found Bella resting in her bed. But she wasn't alone. Curled up beside her were two tiny puppies. Sarah and Michael were stunned. Bella then stood up and began pacing, preparing for yet another delivery. Quickly, they scooped up the puppies so she wouldn't accidentally step on them. Moments later, her third puppy was born. Bella licked him, but he remained still. Michael picked up the tiny pup and gently rubbed him on his chest, softly blowing on his nose. Suddenly, the puppy took a breath. Michael set him back next to Bella, who settled down and began to nurse her three little ones. It was a touching sight. The little pup they almost lost looked so much like Max had as a baby. It was both heartwarming and bittersweet. In the following months, life on the farm grew peaceful. The puppies brought a new kind of happiness, helping the family heal after losing Max. For a time, things felt light and joyful. But sadly, that sense of safety wouldn't last. Unseen, danger was still lurking closer than they could imagine. By the time spring arrived, the puppies had grown enough to explore outside. Bella was a dedicated mom, always making sure her puppies didn't wander too far. Most days, they stayed in a playpen, but now they were allowed to roam freely in the yard. They should have been safe, but life in the African bush meant danger could appear even close to home. Michael had fenced the yard to keep the dogs from straying into the wild, but on this particular day, that wasn't going to be enough. While the puppies played, Bella stayed alert, watching them closely. Suddenly, a scent or sound caught her attention, and she sensed something wasn't right. She turned, and there, almost within reach of the puppies, was a massive python. Without a second thought, Bella leapt in front of them, determined to shield them from harm. But the puppies, still young and curious, didn't recognize the danger. Each time one edged closer, Bella would jump in front, blocking them from the python. Watching over all three at once while keeping them safe was exhausting. She was so focused on her little ones that she didn't see the python begin to move. Then, in a swift motion, the python lunged. Had Bella been watching, she might have dodged, but her focus was on protecting the pups. This might have been the same python that took Max, and what would happen now was impossible to predict. Before Bella realized it, the python had wrapped around her, coiling tightly. Sarah was inside the house when she heard Bella bark, and she was about to check when the barking stopped. She assumed everything was okay, unaware that Bella had gone silent because the air was being squeezed out of her. Meanwhile, Michael was in his workshop, completely unaware. If either of them had looked at the live camera feed, they might have seen the danger their dog was in, but they hadn't. Bella was helpless in the python's grasp. She couldn't bark, and each breath was a struggle. Was this really the end? Would the puppies lose their mother to this deadly python? The python twisted tighter around Bella, and in that moment, something unexpected happened. Just as all hope seemed lost, the three puppies began barking furiously. They even tried to bite the python, but their small jaws had little effect. All they managed to do was anger the python, which tightened its grip and bit down on Bella, securing its hold. The puppies' attempts couldn't save her, but their frantic barking reached Sarah's ears in the house. She'd never heard them sound so fierce. Suddenly, the silence from Bella terrified Sarah. Rushing outside, she couldn't believe the scene before her. She screamed for Michael to come immediately, and to bring vinegar. The sight made her feel sick to her stomach. Her beloved Bella was caught in the coils of one of the largest pythons Sarah had ever seen, while the three puppies looked on helplessly. Quickly, Sarah gathered the puppies and placed them in a nearby crate to keep them safe. She yelled for Michael again, her desperate screams carrying the fear and urgency of the moment. When Michael finally reached her, he took one look at the massive python wrapped around Bella and understood instantly. This was likely the same python that had taken Max. Losing another dog to this creature was unthinkable. Without hesitation, they poured vinegar over the python's mouth, knowing it might sting Bella's wounds but hoping it would force the python to loosen its grip. The python recoiled from the taste, releasing its hold slightly, and that gave Michael and Sarah the chance they needed. Carefully, they slipped their hands between the python and Bella, starting from its tail, which is the python's weakest point. Slowly and gently, they began unwrapping it, taking care to keep a firm grip on the python's head to prevent it from biting Bella again. Bit by bit, they unwound the powerful coils until, finally, Bella was free. They weren't sure how much damage had been done or how badly Bella's body had been crushed, but as soon as she was freed from the python's grip, she began breathing heavily and whimpered softly. She was still alive. While Michael held the python securely, Sarah ran to fetch a large bucket. Revenge would have been tempting. They had already lost one dog to this python, and they didn't know yet if Bella would survive. However, having lived close to nature, they understood that the python was simply a wild animal trying to survive. Killing it wouldn't bring Max back or help Bella heal. They decided to handle it safely. After punching air holes in the lid, they placed the python into the bucket. Later, they brought it to a local python sanctuary where it would be cared for in a secure enclosure, far from their home and livestock. With that done, they turned their focus to Bella. Placing the puppies safely inside, they rushed her to the veterinary clinic. Bella was awake but clearly in pain. The python's grip could have broken bones or caused internal injuries, and they needed to make sure the bite wouldn't get infected. Pythons aren't venomous, but any wound could still become infected. After a thorough scan, the vet discovered she had a few broken ribs, but Bella was incredibly fortunate. Had the puppies not sounded the alarm, things could have ended very differently. For the first few days, they made sure the puppies didn't jump on their mama, keeping her wounds clean and allowing her to heal. Before long, Bella was showing real improvement. She was safe, and so were her puppies. Sarah and Michael decided to keep all three of them. With so much space on the farm, there was room for the whole family to thrive. The male pup they'd saved at birth grew strong and formed a close bond with Michael, just like Max once had. The family was complete again. As for the python, it found a new home in a spacious, natural enclosure where it could live freely without the risk of returning to the farm, or endangering itself by venturing to others. It was a good outcome for everyone involved. Would you have shown the python such mercy? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Join us again for more heartwarming stories that inspire. See you in the next video.